What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. I'm going to be revealing spearfishing's biggest secret in the next 3 seconds, and that is going to be the use of flashers. I'm not only going to give you some pro tips on, what makes a good flasher, what makes a bad flasher, but we're going to do a breakdown video of how to go ahead and make this for yourself at home. I'm gonna be going through the supplies that you're gonna need, some of the best places to get them. In the description below, I will also link where I can pick up all this stuff from. Yes, some stores, some dive shops, online, in person, you can find some flashers that are pre-made, but they're never gonna be great or perfect, and we don't settle for that, okay? Spend some time, make them at your house. To be honest too, what you're gonna be able to design will not only be better, but at the end it's gonna be cheaper, it's gonna last much longer, and it is just gonna be more reflective. You're gonna be able to add more pieces, you can customize, and I'm gonna kind of give you some suggestions on what you could do, but spend the time, sit down, give yourself a few hours, and make something like this for yourself. You have a few options too. You could stick with kind of the traditional throwing pipes that you're gonna string together, or I have one of my favorite items that I will link on Amazon, but these little, they're almost like a metal, there's a little bit of weight to them, but these flashers, and just the way that these guys move in the water completely outperforms what a throw flasher is gonna do. I also think that these wrap up a lot nicer than if you just have like a bunch of the pipes. And I'm just gonna even go into the way that I'm gonna like put these on the actual line and just explain why a set like this is gonna be a little bit better than a set like this when I go through some of the items that we're gonna use. All right, without further ado, let's get into it. First, we're gonna go over the tools that we're gonna need. It is really nice if you do have your own pair of crimps. Having a drill and a small drill bit will be also quite necessary. Tape measure, if you really wanna get things dialed in, I would suggest it. A pair of scissors, some electrical tape, a couple zip ties. You're gonna need 2 to 3 beers minimum. Now, starting at the top of the flasher, I do like to have the plastic wheel to wrap everything up. It is not necessary. I have seen friends use an old water bottle that they just recycled and they wrap the line around it. But it is convenient to have something that you can wrap around so that the mess is cleaned up. If you already own one of these, this could also be a great option. I also really like just clipping the flasher to this later so that it's all floating. You need the flasher clipped either to like your boat or to an item that's like this, but you could also use this to just wrap the flasher around. It is a great option. The mono is maybe gonna be like the single most expensive item because they usually only sell it in packages of about 100 yards. I wanna say this is about $27, close to $30. I like to use 1.8, test 300. The size, don't go too small, don't go too big. Preferably use a 12-ounce weight for the bottom. Something that's too light will just get swung if there is any current. You want something that's heavy enough that's gonna keep the flasher system pulled down. Get yourself a pack of crimps. Again, we're using 1.8 mono, so go with a 1.9 crimps. This 100 pack was, I wanna say less than $10. All right, this is the big secret also. We want to be using branch swivels while we make these flashers. The branch swivel is gonna be able to connect to our main line, and it's really gonna help things not stay tangled, and it's just gonna be able to give that flasher just so much more movement in the water naturally. We're gonna want a few ball bearing swivels. Again, the secrets that I'm gonna be revealing, we will want to use these teardrop fishing flashers. These things can be purchased on Amazon. It is about 20 bucks for a pack of 5. Today we're gonna be using 2 sets because I want to have 10 items hanging down the flasher line. I would suggest getting 1 snap swivel. Again, we don't wanna be using too many of these things. Having anything that's gonna have like an edge like this, a little corner, is just gonna cause tangles and things getting caught when you go to clean it up or when you go to put it all out. So again, having an organized system is just gonna be super efficient. We want 1 tuna clip, doesn't need to be a big one, small to medium is great. Again, the setup I'm gonna be making is gonna be all those teardrops, but at the very top, we are gonna go with 1 throw flasher that we can disconnect in case if you were to lose your own personal one that should be on you. So we're gonna have 1 that we could also take off the system in case if you lost it. And we want all of our shiny material. Most fishing stores, and you can find this stuff online, will sell material that is sticky. So the one side you're gonna be able to tear off and stick. Then other materials is just gonna be flashy paper. It's gonna be flashy on both sides. This is what we're gonna use when we are gonna make the bottom, the kind of like the octopus, the squid looking thing. And we're gonna cut long strips into this. So you're gonna want several feet of this along with several feet of the sticky material. And last but not least, there is this special item that is called Mylar, highly reflective, it's waterproof. We're also gonna use this to cut some long strips to add to the squid that's gonna be at the very bottom. All right, first things first, we're gonna get our mono out. What I would really recommend doing is using the tape measure and measure this out to the depth that you are going to remember. Personally, I like to use anywhere between 10 to 12 meters. That's about how deep you want the squid to be at the bottom, but having flashers that are set to 10 meters so that you remember it, when you're diving, you kind of always have like a frame of reference. You roughly know how deep things are, you roughly know how deep you're going, you know how deep you are when you start to come up. I like to go between 10 and 12. This set we're gonna make, I'm gonna set it to 12 meters. Okay, so we have our 12 meter monofilament, which is equal to 39 feet. What we're gonna do next is we're gonna start to kind of get some things spaced out on how we want each flasher to go. Looking here at the pre-existing flasher, we are gonna start at the top of the line basically with one of those crimps down to our one snap swivel, down to our one flasher, one of our throw flashers. Again, you could make the whole setup all throw flashers. I would not recommend having 10 of these snap swivels because this is just gonna bring your price of production up quite a bit. Because what we want to have is going to be that branch swivel in the middle of the line down to our teardrop flasher, connected with the ball bearing swivel and a few crimps in between. Even the way that these things are spaced out amongst each other, we are going to put one of these for every 1 meter. Again, just kind of helps you give yourself reference while you're diving. So on one end of your mono, start to send down your one crimp and all 10 of your branch swivels. We will finish up the stack. We can start to close this off. Again, we're gonna know that this is going to be the bottom of the flasher. Throw our 12-ounce weight on there. We can crimp this guy and call it good. Now, like I said, I like to have these things spaced out from the bottom every 1 meter moving up the line. So we're gonna take our line and with each crimp, we're gonna measure roughly 1 meter and go ahead, crimp these guys down there and then measure up to the next one. Once you get to that very top crimp, don't crimp this one yet because we are going to make sure that we have another small bit of mono that's gonna go through the other side and then we can close this off. So for right now, you can just keep this loose. All right, so with the set we just made, let's go ahead and start to get this attached to our wheel or whatever, whatever you might wanna use. In the old setup, I would have my tuna clip attached to the actual line. In this setup, we are gonna change it. I don't like this because now anytime you try to clip this on, it's always holding the weight of everything underneath it. You can use a snap swivel if you'd like, but we're gonna skip that, keep things cheaper, and we're just gonna go with crimp. So we're gonna take our plastic wheel, take your drill, and we're gonna throw 2 holes in it, one just at the top, one at the bottom. Let's grab a small bit of mono, our tuna clip, and 1 crimp, and we're gonna make basically just a piece to attach if we were ever clipping this off to a boat, clipping this off to a float. Make it whatever length you prefer. And let's crimp this bad boy shut. Now on the opposite side of the hole, remember we're still gonna have our 1 crimp hanging here that's not gonna be crimped shut yet. We're gonna take a second crimp, throw it on there. Now we're gonna wrap this all through our hanger and close it shut. Okay, our holder's together. Let's just wrap this up. We're gonna set this off to the side for now, and let's get started on making the teardrop flashers and attaching the sticky pieces to them, which will then be ready to be put onto the system. All right, by now you should be onto your second beer. We're gonna start to grab our Teardrop Flashers, and we're gonna grab our sticky reflective tape. What we want to do, because these things are double-sided, we are going to want to cut out 20 strips of the width of what these guys are. So go through, cut out all 20. Once you just get one size, it's really easy to just, make basically real simple copies. So yeah, grab a pair of scissors, start to cut out 20 strips. It doesn't need to be perfect. We are gonna go back through and really cut this out so that it is going to be very close to the exact size of this item. All right, we have our 20 strips of flashy paper. We have our 10 teardrops. Now, just get ready for even more annoyance. What we're gonna do is we want to basically draw these things out, and we're going to try and cut so that we have a better shaped sticky material. If we don't do this, oh, that pen is not drawing this shit. Then we're gonna take our pair of scissors and we are going to start to cut out the shape. Cut inside the line that you traced. You do want it to be slightly smaller, especially because these teardrops have this little curved edge. So you want to try to make sure that the sticky is well within that curved edge. So cut just slightly inside, give yourself some room for error if you need. And we're gonna go ahead and start to begin to stick all these on the front and the back of your material. All right, there we have it. One side down, only 19 left to go. All right, another beer later, you should have all of your plates done. Again, a cheaper option, maybe even faster, is to just stick with PVC pipe. And again, the same type of stick material, cut all your PVC pipes the length of that material, and then you can go ahead and just wrap these things on there. It'll work perfectly. This is the best method to make throw flashers. But again, I think these are better. The throw flashers are also real simple. Just take your sticky, line it up. Wrap that around it. Now we're gonna use our drill again. We wanna drill through a hole through both sides. Because now we have somewhere where we can throw some mono through and make a piece to attach it. Next step is going to be starting to get our teardrop flashers ready to be attached to the full line. I do like to have this swivel here because it's just gonna cause more motion and more movements in basically every direction. You don't need to do this step if you don't want to. You can just make this little mono bow tie and have it attached to the line. But again, if you want to do it perfect the first time, throw a ball swivel in the middle when you attach your flasher to the line. All right, to make the first attachment point, just go ahead and cut a small piece of mono. We are going to thread that through the flasher, throw your ball swivel on there as well, and a crimp on both sides. And crimp this shut. You should try and make the mono as small as you can. The smaller it's cut, it's a little bit hard to bend, but it's just gonna be less points to get tangled and stuff later on. All right, next step is gonna be attaching the flashers with the extra swivel to the actual line. You could skip this whole extra swivel part and just attach this straight to the line, but I just think that having both creates way more movement and free movement. It's very easy now for these things to spin, which is what we want, and for them to be moving in the water, which is what we want. And then I also do like to do this kind of bow tie crimp. It takes a little bit more time to get set up, but it just helps keep things tangle free instead of having one big loop or something to keep the two things attached. So give yourself the extra few minutes and go ahead and make some of these. To do this step, we are going to find the next open branch swivel. We're gonna take one piece of mono and we're gonna thread it halfway through a single crimp. So both sides through. We're gonna take our other piece of mono, cut the same length. We're gonna thread it through the ball swivel. And same thing, we're gonna insert it into half of this crimp. All right, once both sides are in, crimp this shut, and you're good to go. All right, stuff is coming together. We are almost done. The last few steps, let's first, before we start making the squid at the bottom, let's first move up to that very first crimp that we put down the line, and let's attach our removable throw flasher to have, again, this is just kind of a backup to have, do whatever you want for this, for like the last piece, but I like to have at least one removable thing in case if you lose your throw flasher. All right, first let's make a little loop on our throw flasher so that we can clip it to the whole system. We could also clip this onto our belt if you had a clip on your belt, but we're just gonna make a little loop here. Crimp on, and then we can go ahead and tuck that inside of itself and hide it so that it is out of the way. We've got a little loop to attach it to things. We're gonna come back to our flasher setup. Again, we should have this one loose crimp. This is what we're gonna attach our throw flasher to. Find the point just a ways down where you'd like it to go. Grab another piece of line. We are going to crimp this on here and lock this into place. We're gonna put one final crimp down the system, put it through our locking swivel. Figure out how long you want it. This to me looks a little too long, so I'm gonna shorten this guy up. Okay, to about that length. We can crimp and cut, trim this out, and now we have a removable throw flasher as a backup that's gonna be close to the very top of our whole system. All right, finally, we've made it to the last step, and it is going to be creating that squid that's gonna be at the bottom. Basically what we want to do is we wanna just attach a lot of this paper cut in strips down to the bottom of this to make it look like a long kind of curly thing. So take however long of strips you want. Imagine what we're gonna be doing is wrapping it around this weight and zip tying it / taping it on. So what I'm gonna do to start is I'm gonna take a pair of scissors, cut some strips up until like maybe about 1 inch down, because that's what I'm gonna use to be able to wrap it around the whole thing. Once you've got your first sheet ready, just imagine where it's gonna be in place, wrapping it around. Just like so. You can go ahead and use some electrical tape to kind of like start to tape this into place, or even use a single zip tie and start to zip tie this into place. But just know you would probably want to leave yourself some extra space so we can attach a few more layers of this at the bottom. Don't forget, use some of that Mylar paper that you have as well. This stuff is honestly even easier to work with. It makes it even easier to wrap around. To finish up, grab at least 2 zip ties, and we're gonna try to zip tie this whole bit right around the weight, really nice, snug, tight, and then we're gonna put some pieces of tape around it to just clean it up. All right, bottom's all cleaned up with some electrical tape. Top is nice and organized with a clip. This is ready to get wet. Okay, several hours later, and our product is finished. Like I said at the beginning, take the time to make something like this at home. Yes, you can buy stuff at the stores, but they're just never gonna be as good. I started with one that I bought at a shop before, and within just a few months, I ended up throwing it away. Hopefully you found this guide helpful. Please share with me if you do end up making something like this at your house. Add to it, I want to know how you make it even better than how I've made this one. So go ahead, leave a comment, subscribe, please follow along. As always, thanks for watching and safe diving.